We've got a unique offering in this podcast because I haven't met anyone like Sasha doing what Sasha does, and that's our podcast guest for today. And she goes by the name Reno Girl. Well, that's what her website says, so I've decided that's the name she goes by. And we talk about her experience as a young woman moving from Ukraine, working 3 jobs to support her family, and then also working in the corporate world, having to sit on a little laptop while in a meeting room when they kept trying to move her around because they were finding some sort of underhanded way to get rid of her, and she managed to stick it out and work it all out. But the most interesting part outside of the personal journey and what she's done to be where she's at, being a single mother, owning her own house, running I assume successful, I don't know, for the last 4 years, but it's still going through COVID. So if anyone's sort of thinking about renovation, how to juggle the complexities of getting the supplies that you need, finding the right contractors, how to get your vision down on paper in a strategic way. Well, apparently she likes property and apparently she likes planning. So I'm glad people like her exist, because fucking sounds awful to me. But yeah, as I say, it solves a problem. And anyone that wants a bit of clarity on how to control sort of their mindset around money, how to develop their understanding of investment, there's a link in the bio. You got to click it, check it out. We're giving out a free copy of the book that I wrote. Also, there's newsletter, and I'm going to start creating guides for pretty much any skill set that I can understand and comprehend and deliver to you. That might be helpful. But I'm rambling. Let's kick into it. We've got Sasha. You're a bit of a renovating guru, but I think it's useful, to set the context of how you came to be what you actually do. But I think starting with what you do, because it's somewhat unique. I've met another person doing that, actually.
Sure.
So what do you do?
I guess how it started my business was predominantly focusing on helping women and families renovate. And it's from my own experience and I guess having a corporate job, and you get home and you own a home, there's a problem, who do you call? And as a woman, it is pretty difficult in the industry. A lot of, I guess, men that you deal with within the industry, they tend to sometimes read the book by its cover and think that you don't know what you might be asking or what you might be expecting and things like that. And quite a lot of the time, I think that's where the whole sort of stigma around renovating comes into it, and the trust. And so I think that from my own experience of actually renovating and doing up houses and selling them, I've found that there is no one out there on behalf of the customer to help them through the process and actually make it easier. But also on the other side, you have really good tradies, and because of all the, I guess, bad experience that people had in the past, they find that they don't have the time to, for example, project manage the project and go and get a bath for a customer or help them choose a vanity or actually pull it all together, especially in this current market. So I found that my customers are more of a niche market of people who are busy, women who are too scared to deal with some of these guys. And let's face it, I mean, they can be quite intimidating. Or, customers who are in St. Heliers or Remuera or, say, in Glendowie, not everybody has a large budget, but quite a lot of the time these guys come out and go, oh, she's a big job. And the poor customer standing going, well, yeah, okay, but how much? And it doesn't give you any confidence whatsoever of what are the next steps, where do I go, what do I do. So I suppose I try and be that person in between and give the customer as much as information as I possibly can around, well, what does it take to actually do the project? What does the customer need to do? What will the guys do and deliver? And then I guess pull it all together.
Makes sense. You were off. One question you fucking took off. Well, I think, and safe space, because you're talking predominantly woman and I'm predominantly a man, I think. I identify as, he, him. Just shout out to the... We've got 1% of our audience are non-binary. Fun fact, yeah. But I appreciate them. So I have this theory. a hypothesis that your purpose is helping a version of yourself in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So either you had struggles yourself, or strong emotional events that led to you feeling a certain way, and then when you can help it, or if you see it in the world, like your parents have been through a certain thing. And it sounds like on some level for you, around the experience of being a woman and a mother, and then maybe solving that problem. What made you decide to do that? You know, was it you had challenges yourself? You saw challenges with friends? You just love it?
Well,
picking bars for clients?
I don't know. But, I don't generally, I stay away from picking things as such. I will help people direct them into the right places to go and start shopping. But I guess in regards to helping people, yes, I absolutely love that. I think that's one of the things that I always enjoyed with my corporate career. I used to have a number of staff that I used to manage, and it was one of the things that actually helped me feel the most happiest is when I was making a difference. And I left the corporate world and I had made a decision, okay, I'm going to go to Australia. I have family there. And then while I was actually doing up my house, one of my last houses I wanted to sell, the guys that were doing the work on the house, they basically said to me, my God, you're actually outdoing us at the speed that you're going at. I was repairing the house outside and painting it. I was on the scaffold doing this villa. And they said, could you help us with the client side of things? We're really good at what we do, but we're not really good with customers as such. And it kind of happened from there. And I came up with a name for my company after going for a walk with a girlfriend, literally within half an hour. It just came to me. And I felt like, okay, that makes sense. Yes, that's me. And yeah, and I suppose my own experience of renovating houses, and I've originally come from Ukraine with no English, no nothing, and establishing yourself in New Zealand is pretty tough. So naturally, when you're renovating, it's a little bit like the same process as you come into a new country, because it's so different and there's so many components, and you just don't know who's actually telling you the truth about your house. I've had some experiences where builders come into my property because my floor is sinking and telling me it's $120,000 job, you know, and I've just turned up from work and this guy's standing there leaning on his big yacht. I'm going, okay, have you been under my house? Oh, no. And I said, okay, that's cool, just give me a second, I'll go and put my overalls and we're going to go underneath and going to show me this 120k. Needless to say, while we were under the house, the quote went down to about 60 or 50. So I said to him, he better get out of the house really, really fast before I bury him. But, you know, and in the end, that cost $4,000. So I think my overall life experience is helping me help other people of finding the right solution for what is going on within, I guess, the building as such, because I think it's so scary and it's so overwhelming, especially when there's something's wrong and no one's willing to put their name on it. No one's willing to tell you exactly what's wrong. And then, you know, they give you outrageous figures without actually doing any investigation. So I'm used to, I suppose, when you're managing staff, and say if you are going to be going through change management process, it's a new team that we're not performing, you've got to learn how to read the room and find out what's actually going on. So I think for me, I tend to use those skills that I've learned through the corporate career to try and go through the building side of things and pretty much figure out who's who and who I should be dealing with.
Well, it makes sense. Like, there's something I've noticed around 2 years, like business partners, they have a fallout, and the ones that get scammed, I find, are the ones that don't have knowledge. So if like they completely outsource to a certain business partner that does everything, as opposed to having a minimal understanding, like, you know, going under the house and getting a feel, and suddenly, you know, that's an $80,000 difference. Maybe the hit job cost $80,000.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think for me, I just love, I guess, property as such. So it's as much as I was working on
you love property. Where did that come from? You made sandcastles as a kid, or you started building?
I don't know. It just makes sense to me, I suppose.
Okay.
And so when we came to New Zealand, it was one of the things that I remember looking at constantly and thinking, I wish I could do that. I wish I could do that. And in hindsight, I probably should have just done it. You know, it's coming from the country that I've come from, you're not really, even the promotion of your own individual thought isn't there when I was growing up. So, you know, you don't have a supportive structure around you of people helping you to strive to learn and do different things. You know, coming just out of the whole USSR regime is quite controlled and everything else. So yeah, I guess it's a very interesting
We've got to dig into that. Sorry, like tell us what you can and can't say. But just to give you context, my sister's she's on the board of Maya's Hope, and she went over to Ukraine to help the kids with deformities from like Chernobyl and stuff like that, because the state owned them.
Yes,
there was a law that was a bit of a mistake. What so you were in Ukraine to what age?
Teenagers.
Yeah. Jesus, what's it like? What was your life like in Ukraine? And obviously there's challenges at the moment. You probably talked about it way too many times, so you can choose to.
Look, that is one thing that I find very interesting to probably talk about it now versus say 6 months ago if you were to ask me the same question. I think as a result of the current conflict and the war, my point of view actually back home has changed a lot. I would say that I was thinking I have definitely had a massive opportunities coming to New Zealand. And originally when we came, I think the biggest opportunity is that at the age that I came, we were thrown into such a deep end here. We've come from, like, we were an okay family and we had a car and we had an apartment. But all of that, selling everything, we could barely, I think it was close to $10,000. So coming here and you have no job, you have nowhere to live, that's barely anything for you to survive on. And nobody wants to employ my parents because they have a heavy accent back then. So I ended up working 3 jobs to help us. And so you kind of think about, would I have had that opportunity back then? No. Is it an opportunity? I think so. It's a huge opportunity because it kind of created my character of, okay, I have an issue. What am I going to do with it? I'm not going to be a victim, but I'm going to find a way of how to, I guess, grow further from this and develop. And so it's always been that way for me. Whenever I've had an issue, even at work, I've been bullied, you name it, I always look at it going, bring it on.
Yeah. I feel like you got me to do some of this shit. Like...
Well, I just think the thing is though, if life doesn't scare you, you're standing still and you're not growing. And in the reality, a lot of people would compare themselves to other people and everything else, but you really are actually competing with yourself from yesterday. Yeah,
true.
So what
were these 3 jobs?
Oh, it was cleaning. One was catering. And
school?
Yeah, I did school.
Wow.
With no English.
Were they roasting you? Were they like just giving you shit and you were the outcast and you just crying to your lunchbox?
I wasn't crying, but I certainly remember when I was going to Auckland Girls Grammar and these girls came up to me and they said...
Girls, I feel like you're using politically correct language.
Well, let's put it that way. I was very tiny and in Auckland Girls Grammar, they came up to me and they said, do you want to play rugby in lunchtime? And I just assessed the situation and I thought, no, I'll be broken in seconds.
Yeah, it was a smart decision. Yeah. I'm paying I was 50 kilos, 5'6" until 17. Obviously doubled everything there because I ate too much, I got taller. But I was playing rugby, and the body, you were right. It was a great instincts there. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just, it was so overwhelming, just the thought of it.
Yeah. So, and then you're doing your 3 jobs, and then you're going to study, or you did the corporate job because you got to pay bills for your parents.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, at that point, I moved out, but I was quite, I suppose, independent already. With
Are Ukrainian parents like harsh? Like, I feel like people don't smile in Russia and Ukraine.
I think that was back because literally back in those countries, it was so controlled that, oh my God, if you're going to laugh and smile, somebody's going to judge you and there's something else and something else. I mean, I remember going back and when my grandparents are still alive and my grandfather telling me to wipe my smile off my face while we're on the bus, just don't want to stand out type of thing. And I was like, oh, okay, that's right, I forgot.
Were you refugees or something? Was there drama? You just came with 10 grand and they let you in?
No, my dad was on the high skills list.
Oh, yeah, got you.
So we've immigrated because of that. And I think at the time when we came, the major reason was it was 2 to 3 years that my parents weren't getting paid a salary back there. So, when you have no, I suppose, future stability, and you can't see really what's ahead, and you have a choice to maybe seek another avenue where you might have a bit more of a stable life, that's what they chose. And going back to your original question, I think at the time that was right, but now looking back at how much Ukraine has progressed, some people ask me, oh my God, is it anywhere near like it is here? And I'm like, well, my
the buildings are pretty. Like, here's
my home country, my home city is Kiev, but that's the capital. Oh, yeah. It's over 1,500 years old. Yeah. You can't compare that. Yeah, it's
beautiful, yeah.
Plus also the fact that, amongst the war, as an example, a bridge that was blown up by the Russians was rebuilt within a month, and the trains were going over it, and it wasn't a tiny little bridge. And you have to ask yourself, how long does it take for us to build anything?
Yeah. Oh, shots fired. my flatmate's building the rail under the K Road. I was like, what are you doing with your life? Like, what's happening? Yeah. Or like China, like overnight, just, the whole thing. I feel like, I don't know anything, to be honest, but I feel like it's slow. Why is it slow if it is slow?
Why is it slow? I'd say it's too many people have to have a conversation about it rather than actually getting on and doing it.
6 people looking at a road cone. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, okay. Well, we better talk about... we got to work out how you got here first. So...
How I got here?
Yeah. Why the fuck? Yeah. You can swear, by the way. It doesn't matter. So you got 3 jobs. Ukraine, don't smile, wipe your face. Smile off your face,
wow.
Yeah, I was listening. And so then you're like, what, in your 20, 19, and then what do you do? What's happening?
At the time, I started working for my partner at the time, and actually, I guess that probably was one of the major learning curves about business. And I was always very passionate as well about business, just learning things. He ran a door-to-door sales company, selling Kirby's, would you believe?
Selling what?
Kirby's. You don't even know what it is. That just tells you how bad they are now. But back then, they were selling this vacuum cleaner for $4,000.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of those. Yeah. Not the name, but the 4,000 part. Yeah,
4,000. I think, gosh, I can't remember how many. I think we got up to 400 a month.
You're selling 4,000 times 400 a month.
Yeah, that's what his company was selling. And so I came on board, and at the time he wanted me to be a salesperson, but it didn't end up that his sales manager was a bit up to it. So I left after one day of induction, and I came back.
One day.
I know. Yeah. And then I came back into an office management role.
Yeah.
And then it just, he actually got to the point, I suppose, where his business was growing so much, but there was no further, like the sales is the growth, but what are the next steps you take? So I think for him, he felt like he's reached the ceiling, and I was too young to, I suppose, be in that coaching role as a partner to be able to help. Okay, well, what do we do? So I took over sort of helping and looking after the business, and that was probably one of the major learning curves for me, because you have to be involved in so many different departments and learning so many different things. And after that, I basically went into different industries, and I think what I found by going to different industries, I had picked up so many different skills. I worked in a finance company, then I worked at an outsourcing company that ended up selling the business to New Zealand Post, so they were quite a large company, and I ended up being the senior manager on the management team.
Oh, watch out.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
What's your top managing tips? I'm good at interrupting you today.
That's all right. Top management tips: treat people like people, I think.
Groundbreaking, eh? It's rare.
Oh, I think that, I think the biggest tip that particular manager gave me is I remember him saying about other managers that they come on the scene into their new role and they start to change everything just to throw their weight around rather than actually sitting and breathing through the nose for about 3 months and observing and understanding, well, what does the business do? I think as a leader, you have to be able to roll up your sleeves and actually do the hard yards and understand really the company, the people, and at the end of the day, actually, the people that work for you are your biggest asset.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I was just thinking, because, you're too articulate, you got to rock the boat. I think, like, the part I struggle the most when I see either a business owner or a manager is the need to manage the process, as opposed to creating a mission and then allowing the individual to find the answers to that mission and supporting them if they get lost. Because essentially a lot of businesses bottleneck to them, so they're over-managing the process, they're not outsourcing or decentralizing or trusting, and they're missing out. But you were carrying on with your story, weren't you? So you
it's
corporate. Fine. Okay. Now you're about to start your business. You're like, and pregnant, or when did you start your business?
I started my business about 4 years ago.
Oh, okay, all right. So what was that like? So you're like, I've had enough, or like, I feel like I could do this, or...
So, as I mentioned before, I was thinking of going to Australia. So I had worked, after the outsourcing job, I had worked for a couple of other places, and then basically, I was ready to go. In the last role that I had really delivered everything that was expected of me, and I felt that, what more can I really add? I've always pretty much done a job, and I kind of almost put myself out of the job because I have delivered what was necessary for the team to be successful, or turn the part of the business to start to achieve some major results, especially around budget and things like that. So I was set to do that, and then these guys pulled me in on helping customers, and then I suppose, when you start to work for yourself, I guess, and a lot of people in the past who I worked with, who were my managers, who would keep telling me, Sash, you're not really, I think you could grow more if you're doing things for yourself. And I'm like, it's that whole, I think as a woman, we actually, like, men can just, I'm just going to go and do it, whereas us girls, we kind of think, can I not? We still, I think, sometimes second guess ourselves, if I'm completely honest, as much as we might come across as a strong woman. But I do think that at times it's a bit more, it takes us to make a decision on what do we do next. And for me, I started to really enjoy that whole part of interaction with clients. I think that's what really, I suppose, makes my heart sing. Yeah.
Oh, sweet. Okay. Well, on a more wholesome note, like, if there's, like, you sound like somewhat of an advocate for women and trying to encourage and support them. So if there was, like, a young woman thinking about business or has some level of trepidation, and what would your advice be around that, like getting through that? Or they're in a business and they're seen as bitchy, but they just want to be assertive, or, Oh,
I can't stand that part, but the whole bitchy thing. Wow, no, seriously, I've been there. I've been in a place where, you're working amongst a lot of men, and you are...
Just say your mind. I know I'm a bloke, but there are blokes listening. Mostly blokes, actually, 60%.
Look, I work with 95% blokes. At the end of the day, and I don't have an issue, and they don't have an issue with me. They actually like how I say things. I think the issue is that the people who say that to the ladies are the ones who are threatened by them, I find the most.
Okay.
They've got nothing else to say that is actually constructive. Because if that's all you've actually got to say to somebody, that they're bitchy, really, where's the substance for it?
Where's this coming from? You've been called bitchy, have you?
No, I've never been called bitchy. I'm pretty much a black and white person when it comes to things. But I just think that I find, on a personal level, I'd find people can misread you, and then they, act a certain way. and you know it, and so there's no point of hiding it.
You're very good at you're good at weaving things in a bit more favourable light. I think it's beautifully
really?
explained. Yeah, well, I mean, I get the undertone of what you're saying is, you met certain people, they treated you differently because maybe they thought you were a little bit bitchy, and in actual fact you're not. But anyways, we won't get it. But you were saying advice for young women. What would you advise, whether it's that or anything in general?
I mean, I actually was a mentor at University of Auckland to a couple of girls, cool. And they enjoyed, I suppose, working, I think, with me because I just don't fluff things up when it comes to advice. And I think at the end of the day, I think these days there's so much support out there around finding knowledge on the internet if you really want to, I'm at the moment studying full-time on top of everything else that I'm doing, a construction double major and diploma in quantity surveying and project management. And as an example, I'm the only student in my group that went on Facebook to find another quantity surveyor, and I connected with this amazing lady who worked at the time full-time Hogan. And so, and she was immediately helpful in regards to answering some of the questions that I had. So I think my point is that if you're starting a business and you think you don't have support, it's just your thought that's stopping you from doing what you want to do. That's all that's stopping you. There is support out there. There'll be people that would have never met you that would be more than glad to help you. There'll be other people who might be a mentor, might be able to help with a business plan, anything you really want these days. I think that, it's about attitude. Just got to go and get it.
Fair. Yeah, bit of anti-victim mindset, I feel.
I think so.
Yeah, I struggle with that. There's this concept of the shadow, not to get too deep, it's kind of my thing, but there's aspects of who you are that are uncomfortable and that you haven't integrated or accepted, and often a good way to find them is that trait in others really upsets you. Mm-hmm. So for me, I get upset by victims, which is fucked. Obviously, you're like, oh, it's a poor person, but them in that narrative in that life, and for me, I play victim quite a lot. It's a talent. Like, oh, poor me, but then I work on it. That's actually why I wear this shirt, the same shirt every day. It's like, what would Jocko do? And Jocko's the opposite of victimhood. His book's called Extreme Ownership. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we'll get into Reno after this. I swear to God. But do you find traits in others that are quite upsetting and hard to get through, or would there be advice you have to get through the victimhood component, or?
Look, I think what I don't like is when something has been done unfairly. That's one of the things that I absolutely don't like. And whether that's somebody where I've come, in the topic of renovation, if I've come across a customer and they've been taken for a ride or they've been told something that they shouldn't have been told, and as a result they've actually had so much stress in their life because of it. It really, really stirs me. But in regards to victims, I think early in my life maybe, but now I kind of think, well, that's what they're choosing to do. That makes them happy. Okay, great. Who am I to tell them not to be a victim if they want to be?
Yeah, stop being a victim. Oh, I'm cured. Thank you so much. Yeah, no, okay, we'll get into Reno. Beautiful tangent for me anyways. Well, okay, so Reno, I imagine you might help the odd bloke too, not just women, but whoever's listening, and the non-binary, shout out. What should you be mindful, to not be taken for a ride? How do you upskill, or how do you be knowledgeable, that sort of thing?
Look, I think, I actually thought that might be something you ask, and I thought, how do you get really across that a person might, I guess, understand how to adopt this? And I think the biggest issue is that it's that initial communication with whoever it is that you're engaging to do the work. I think that it's a little bit like dating almost. You're almost a bit too scared to say everything because you might scare them off, but then you don't want to say anything. And I'm talking about budget side of things. So a lot of the people will tell you when you ask them, well, how much how much you're willing to spend. They don't really tell you, like even me, how much they are wanting to spend.
Yeah.
But the problem is that obviously if it's $100,000 job, but they're hoping to spend maybe 50, those days are gone, and you really need to, when you engage in, I think, a person, say a builder or a plumber or an electrician, be really upfront about what it is you want, but actually set a project in your own mind. That's all I'm doing. And don't start making changes constantly and can't make a decision on what I want, and maybe I'll do this and maybe I do that, maybe I do that. That's how things go from $5 job to a $20 job. And also the relationship, it becomes really difficult because you're asking somebody who it's not their core business. Say a builder isn't there to help you go through the decision-making process. They're there to build. So I think it's going back to thinking, okay, what am I going to get them to do? And then I personally, obviously, as my business grows, I have to look for different tradies. So when I look for them, the things that I guess will be assessing is I would have sent them an email, told them about who I am and that I'm looking for a new person. Out of 20 emails that I would send, I can tell you now, I'd have only 3 that would reply. And out of those 3, there'll only be 2 whose English is actually structured well.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, yeah.
But prior to me sending that email, I would have actually looked at their website, I would have looked at their Facebook page, I would have looked at their Google reviews, I would have looked at what have they been last posts, and some of the posts you go, oh my god, no thanks, move on to the next one. My spreadsheet of who not to use is a very long spreadsheet. But when you find really good people, I think that the thing that people need to remember is it's worth paying that a little bit extra of not having to worry about things that might go in like wrong later. And what I suppose refer to, like the things that I refer to there, is a lot of people take risks and the builder will tell them you need a consent for that. Oh no, don't worry about it, just do it. Things like that, where you might be okay with it, but come selling the house, somebody that wants to buy the place and say you're under financial pressure, you want to exit that property, you have a problem on your hands now. Where's the paperwork? Where are the certificates? Why it's not on the plans? Blah, 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 blah. And it becomes a much bigger issue later. Or there is something wrong. You've used the cheap quote. They're no longer in business. What are you going to do then?
It's true. There's a couple of quotes I like around that. Is like the only thing more costly than hiring a professional is hiring an amateur. And then the other one is it's good to build a fence on the top of the hill than clean the mess up at the bottom. So around, getting the good structure, the good intent, narrowing it down to a single focus. It's quite interesting. It's quite principally, like I know nothing about property, opposite of you, not interested in it at all.
And building.
Yeah, and building, the structure, it's just a vessel. If it's got walls and I can sleep there, it's right. And that's because I lived in a tent traveling around the world, not caring about anything. What would be, I just lost my train of thought, but what would be some good tools just to not link that to anything and just start completely fresh? How did you find them? Like, is there like a builder website thing where you find them more like What's the Crack or something? No.
I would never touch those actually websites personally.
Okay. Why?
Why? Because when you think about it, the good people won't be on there. They're too busy to be advertise themselves on builders crack and all that. Because most of the really good builders, they're pretty much booked up between 12 to 18 months.
Wow.
So, look, I'm not there to say that everyone is bad or anything. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is if we're talking about a person who is inexperienced, very nervous and gets very stressed about the process, all I'm saying is, yes, you can definitely probably find somebody really good on those websites, but you just got to know how to interview them, how to look for the things that you might want to avoid when you are getting your 3 quotes. I've had a lot of customers who might use me for one part of their renovation, and then I would arrive doing that part while they're telling me, oh God, I've had somebody paint that part there, and look at the paint that they've splashed on my brand new deck that we've just done. And so, it's tiny little things that at the time, somebody might not bring the drop down cloth, but it ends up damage worth, say, a new carpet. It's just certain things. It's just risk management at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so I think that if you are actually nervous, have never done it before, I think finding somebody who has experience as well as not a cheap quote. Yeah.
Who's your biggest competitor, or is just none?
I haven't really found. I think my biggest competitor is the customer, because I think they know how to do it themselves.
Yeah, especially in New Zealand, DIYs.
DIYs, yeah, that's right. And I think that's absolutely fine. At the end of the day, I'm there to provide value, and if a person doesn't feel that, I will be able to give them the value. But I guess the difference is generally the builder will be doing what I'm partially doing, but they don't have the time to do that. And in the end of the day, they'll actually charge for that too. So whether they pay me, but I'm actually acting on the customer's behalf. And if they fall out with the builder, I'm still there and I'll find them somebody else. Whereas if I'm not there, I can't smooth things over.
That's interesting. Why? Like, I can see, from my limited understanding of builders, I was a labourer and they'd just tell me what to do because I don't want to think. They'd give me a left-handed hammer and I get confused. Like, what do you mean left-handed hammer? So I can see how they benefit from like the EQ component, like being able to navigate relationships with clients, being busy, not having good systems or processes. They just want to build.
Yes.
That solves the problem. But then you're saying they're going to pay you, but if they fuck up, you're going to be like, oh, I'm going to give you another builder. Like, how does that work? Like, do they, or it just doesn't happen much? No,
it's more or less, the thing is though, if a customer is hiring me, I'm there to manage the project. So therefore, I'm going to be managing the way that the whole project is going to be run. The builder is not going to be, I'm going to have the whole program. What day is the builder going to come in? Because the builder is not going to be on the whole project there the whole time. Otherwise, again, you'll be paying for that, for them to make sure the tiler gets there, to tile your bathroom. Have they waterproofed? Did they do the right waterproofing? Is it up to the standard, I'm not saying that every builder is like that, but you want to have a peace of mind for yourself. Everyone gets busy, and I think the point is that no one is perfect, and so having somebody manage the process, you're actually helping also the guys just come and do the job, move on to the next part. And so therefore, if something isn't right, you have somebody like me to go, hey, could you just I think this has been missed off. Whereas if the customer's managing that, it'll be, oh my God, you haven't done it. That's it. Over. You know what I mean? And because I think we are operating in a very, very pressured environment at the moment, we have not enough materials. We are having to order the materials not the way that we used to. You can't just go down the road and get them. For some parts, you actually have a limit also on how much you can get. So you'll go down one trip to go get that. Tomorrow you've got to go get it again. So there's just a lot more stress and pressure on the guys now. So, and I think, having that middle person, making sure that people are coming in the right times and managing that, also having those relationships because they know you, that means that if we're running with one component of the project late and I need to put off somebody else, it's about foreseeing that with an advance notice to be able to give that to the right guys. So say we're still going with, I don't know, jibbing and electrical, but the tiler was meant to come in tomorrow and I actually can't have them yet there. So I'll be managing that process without the customer even having to worry about it.
It makes sense. Like, I knew nothing about your business model till now. Well, I looked up, you seemed cool, we talked, and I was like, okay, fuck it. Let's do it. It makes sense, like just from the business side of things, being a builder and a competency that you're not naturally good at solves a problem. You don't want to deal with the stress. You're there because you love the creative. You like building, you like shaping, and you like doing. And then the person's stressed, doesn't really understand it. Maybe they're probably your better clients would be ones that are fucked up themselves, and then they see the need. My business associate's favorite line is like, you can do your electrical work, but you might end up like a black mess in the corner. And it's just the thing. So you probably get them post, but from a like scalability problem, like how are you going to train other people? You're just going to keep it at a level. You got a big waiting list. Like, how do you like? Because you don't have recurring revenue. Like, it's a one-off, or
yeah. So it's obviously project by project basis.
Yeah.
I mean, this sort of business is, it's actually a lot more. For example, well known in Australia and around the world. People really generally use more project managers for home renovations. But I think because we're a nation of DIYers, that's why there is not a lot of sort of knowledge out there of somebody like me. But I guess I just take on the work and then just project manage what I can and can't do. And at this point in time, I haven't decided how I will scale my business and to what degree.
Yeah. But you're living for 4 years. So doing something right.
Yeah.
Sounds stressful, kids. Well, we won't go into details about the kids, but you're a mum, single mum, and hustling and studying.
Yes,
and what the
full-time.
fuck, like how many hours are there in a day? Like what does your day look like? How do you, so you study for like, I don't know, 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day. And then you look
sometimes
after
more.
bubs.
Look, at the end of the day, I think if I couldn't project manage my own life, I'll be pretty bad at my own job.
You got all the one-liners there. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just how. Look, I think that just comes back to my culture where I've come from.
Yeah.
I think that that's just who we are. I see some of my own ladies from back home, and that's what we do. We just
grinders.
I don't think we are grinders. We enjoy life. Don't get me wrong, but I think that we
what
are
do you do
hard
for fun
workers.
then? On that note, how do you stay sane?
How do you stay sane?
I mean, I love what I do and I work too much. Maybe
Yeah.
not as much as you by the sounds of it, but like a decent amount. So how do you keep sane? What do you...
Oh, look, I mean, I think it depends what you consider fun, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I find I'll do different things, I mean, I'll still be the person who will sit on the couch and watch Netflix and do other things, or go out and see my friends, or go for a walk, or... my fun is still doing renovations. Like last year when
you break, you reno. Yeah,
I know when my little one was only, he was he was 2 months old. I took on a project in Whangarei for a trade property, and physically driving there, living in an absolute bomb site, converting this.
How old was he?
He was only just over 2 months.
So you're like breastfeeding on the breaks, changing nappies?
No,
all that
luckily I
stuff?
wasn't breastfeeding. I had a broken arm at the time, so I couldn't breastfeed. But
my mum did that, by the way. You probably like her. Essentially, she'd breastfeed me at work so she could keep working. Then I would come home and Grandma would look after me. Except you're doing both. Well, yeah, I'm not trying to focus on that area. I'm just trying to relate, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know how that, because they're, without lack of a better word, they're a little bit, annoying kids. Like, they're wonderful, beautiful, but then, they need a lot of support and attention, and you're studying and working and then doing a project down 2 weeks with a broken arm.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, I suppose I found him actually probably even more enhancing my life and thinking about, what do I do as a single mum to create the life that I really want for us to live?
Okay.
And I think he's really challenged me to think more outside of the square and to think about how to become more and more maybe financially free and independent. And I saw that as a way. I mean, at the end of the day, like at that age, they just want to be changed, bottled, and put into their little crib and have a sleep. There goes my 3 hours. I could be painting a wall or doing something, you know what I mean? So I suppose I have systems in place. I've got processes and things of how I run my business when it comes to doing a renovation, and it's all down to planning. And I think that, I guess when the opportunity came to do the study, I decided, well, we're in a lockdown. you can't see a lot of people. You can't be doing lots of different things. So I might as well do something more with my time. And it was offered, it was offered to us all. And so I took it. And so why not?
So, wow, that's a point. Yeah, because you got this business for 4 years, and then in the middle, you can't leave your house, COVID, and then all the costs and blah, 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 blah. Like, what happened with your COVID journeys? And then baby in the middle.
Oh, look, my COVID journey, I think the first lockdown was I was just pregnant, and then...
God, that's mad.
Yeah, it was like interesting. And then I think another lockdown happened, and you just get used to it, I suppose.
But how did you live? Because you don't have recurring revenue. You just had savings, I guess, and then you snuck out and did renos.
Yeah.
With double masks, but...
Yeah. I mean, and I guess to a degree, COVID in some parts is, in my role specifically, I suppose, if I have very good people, you don't physically have to be there right there and then, If I need to be on site, I could come in and somebody could leave to have a look at things, or, you can work around it. Meeting customers on Zoom instead, it makes it...
that's scalable.
Yeah, exactly. And you can actually help more people by not having to be physically there.
Yeah.
And talk through how do you actually approach the whole project. What do you do? And I think a lot of the time, my role actually, I spend a lot of my hours planning the project before it starts. That's actually really the nuts and bolts of it all. When it actually starts, sure, things pop up, but it's not as massive as getting it right before it even starts.
It's fair. Like, we're the opposite. Even though, like, technically I'm a financial planner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I plan out people's next few decades of their life so they can fund their income and that sort of thing. Like the financial freedom component. Well, I don't like planning. I like talking to them about what they want. Doing the working out how to solve it, you can do in the consultation. Then you just got to prove it in the plan. But that planning component, like, is there a process to plan? Like, is there a sequence of things you have, or a structure for, like, hey, there's a reno, there's these practical principles I can apply, even though we're doing tiling this time, but before we're doing whatever other building stuff there is?
Oh, look, I mean, the thing is, well, now that I'm doing the study at the commercial level, I could say that really at the end of the day, it starts from working from back to front. So you're working from what it is that need to be finished to, that the customer wants it to what level, and then you work it backwards. But for me, that's one part where I will work the guys' timeline in regards to how are we going to deliver it. But there's also things that I have to consider as some of the materials the customer are going to provide to us themselves, because that's potentially going to be an issue if they manage that, but then the supplier doesn't deliver it on time, or if where they get it from doesn't fit. I've had it, before, or it comes but the parts are not there, but they've ordered it from out of town. You can't get that one screw that you really need. You've
got some yarns, I reckon.
The what?
Some yarns, like things just gone wrong, and you having you might not have a meltdown. You seem cool, calm, collected. Well, maybe you melt down the car and then you're like, oh, this is easy.
I melt down sometimes with the guys, but I think that's because we mutually understand each other's frustrations when it comes to some of those things, not working. We know that they will not work, but trying to convince the customer that that's a really wrong path to go, it's pretty hard, and you almost feel like you don't want to be overstepping the boundary of telling the client what they can and can't have, because if they ultimately want something, they should be able to have it. It's just it's going to be a lot more of a cost. There's a lot of risk. It's a bit of a challenge. Even if they choose a certain tile, the way it's got to be cut, it could become an issue. But people think, oh, it's just a bathroom, but there's so many things that can go wrong that to achieve what somebody might like and want. I feel like we haven't leached enough value from you. I feel like we just talked about your life, so I feel we've got a bit of time still. It's 2:52, by the way. We can go a bit over.
sure the listeners would appreciate some reno help.
Sure.
This is where I should be knowledgeable to ask the right question. So if the question sucks, you can re-ask your own question to add more value to people that are renoing.
Okay.
But, okay, so someone's going to reno.
Yes.
And they don't realize the implications of that decision, or what are some challenges that come as a result of not thorough planning? What are common mistakes, shall we say, that reno people make?
I think it goes back to my comment, what I made earlier, is being really, really comfortable and open with your communication with your builder or whoever your team is. Mm-hmm. Because if you're hiring them to be your team, you need to really trust them to be your team. And so you should be able to then sit down with them and say to them, this is what I want, but please tell me if you think there's another way of achieving similar look or whatever. If there's anything that you think could be an issue, please tell me now so that I might make a different choice quickly. But I also think the other thing is be prepared to make decisions fast. Right now, we're in an industry where if you take too long, the material change or anything else is going to cost you 3-4 times the price.
Okay. Are you seeing anything on the material side of things? Like, I understand the macroeconomic issues of New Zealand, like we've got labour shortages because of lack of immigration. You've got global supply chain issues because it's like dominoes. Everyone's getting slowed at each point and it's pent-up demand. We've got lots of government spending, lots of money in the economy with like inflation spiking up, people spending a lot because they're not in their house anymore. What from that building reno side, like what are you seeing? Like obviously there's an inflation of supply costs. There's a lot of delay in terms of like delivering on projects. What are sort of like, do you see like a recession on the horizon, or you see expansion, or less people are renoing or buying houses, or what's your insight on down on the ground?
I don't have a crystal ball. I wouldn't know.
That's true.
But I think like I'm actually constantly watching the property market just like anybody else. I own a house, so I'm interested in finding out what's going to happen, how's it going to look.
Congrats, by the way, owning a house and a single mum. Yeah, watch out.
And I also watch what's happening, for example, in Australia, and their housing is actually, they're sort of a little bit has had a cooling, but they're still growing up. We're supposedly reporting a downturn. I haven't kind of noticed it, to be fair. I've I guess in my area, and I'm not in a high end area or anything, it's a good area, but I think a couple of months ago there were 4 properties sitting on my street unsold, and for a month or a month and a half I was walking past and I was thinking still not sold. But then in the last 3 weeks they're all pop gone, and the prices, they weren't really anything that I thought, oh shit, it's dropped by this much. There were still fair prices. They were fine. Not, stupid crazy, but I think that there were good prices. I think the biggest issue we're going to experience is people who would have bought a house at, 2% interest rate, 3% interest rate.
They're stitched
and they have not really experienced okay, how do I budget for 8% or 9%? I mean, I've owned a house over 15 years, a home, not this particular home, but I've always been told to make sure that you are prepared for, a certain increase. And when you have a very low interest rate offered to you, still keep it at that high rate payments so that you keep on making sure you are paying off the principal. I also at the time had boarders, so everything that they were paying was going on to the principal. And I just think we probably going to see people who overstretch themselves. They're not used to paying the higher rate. And I think that's more going to impact the market rather than the prices all suddenly dropping, because there'll be people who are desperate. They want to exit their property, and so they will potentially have a certain price on that property. But people who sell for reasons, say kids need to go to school over there, they won't be wanting to give away their home.
That's how I see it.
We've got a supply and demand issue. We actually still have supply issue.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I see that a lot as well with clients, is a lack of, potential new clients would be not understanding the implications of the interest rates. Like, they're not dumb. They're smart people, but they just haven't experienced anything except low rates. And like even in 2011, there was 9 or 11%, 11% for floating rate, 9% for fixed. And over the last 20 years, fixed rates have averaged about 6.6% and floating 7%. So always in the planning process, we use 7%. And,
that's right.
And right now, the only thing the Reserve Bank can do to stop inflation, well, there's a few things, but the main thing they do is increase the cost of money, which flows onto mortgage rates. So because inflation's so hot and so scary, interest rates potentially are going to continue to go up. So as you say, mentally prepare for that. The borders are smart. Tax-free, I believe, to have borders if they don't reach a certain threshold.
The who, sorry?
The boarders that live in the house before.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah. They were flatmates. I mean, so, when you're living in the house and you're renting it out to other flatmates, it helps you, certainly.
Yeah, that's smart.
And at the time, I mean, that was one of my biggest learning curves around renovating. That was a house that I bought, was a villa, and it was completely run down, and I was just like, if I were to think about it now, I was thinking, oh God, what were you thinking? But it was a massive learning curve, and I also met a lot of amazing people through it. So I find, in all honesty, as many, bad apples out there in the building industry, there's so many amazing tradies and genuinely actually want to do a good job, help their customers. They want to fix things in once, and I've been really fortunate to come across quite a few of those people, and they've become my friends, and it's been great.
Yeah.
I
think, as I say, being less than an amateur about the property thing, what I've learned, the takeaways I've taken is, don't multitask, have a single focus on the projects. It's really key, the team that you have, you might have to pay a certain price to be able to get that team. And there's complexities that are going to come around the corner that if you don't do the right thing at the start around the planning and thinking about the implications, could be a problem. And be mindful of how you communicate to these poor, stressed out 90% men in the industry.
I don't know about that, but I think it's, I think it's more or less, when things go bad, it's making the right decision.
Yeah, making quick decisions. Any pointers on that as we wrap this up?
Oh, gosh. I think it's just being decisive and being able to live with the consequences of your decisions, I think, at the end of the day. I think the thing is you can always find somebody to do that job. It's a matter of, whether you've overstretched yourself, if you've paid a deposit to somebody and so you lost out on that if you go with somebody else. It's just it's a bit of a balancing act. But I think, if you're stuck and you don't know what to do, I think that's goes back to us different people, don't think that you're on your own. Pick up the phone and speak to different people. Even the right builder, if you're having an issue with a builder, another builder will say to you, well, if you're really honest and open about what's happened, they'll actually might be able to tell you, well, actually you should do this, this, and this, At the end of the day, we all in the industry actually want to help our customers. Yeah. So as much as, I say about the communication, it's just like corporate world or working in a team. Do you want people around you to be engaged in wanting to help you, or do you want them to just come in, do a job, but not really give it their all? You know?
No, it's massive. I mean, I think in my experience, as long as you take an interest in another human being and treat them as a person and be mindful not to leech value like I did for the last 20 minutes, that when you present a problem, most people try to solve it. I used to do door knocking. People scare me, just FYI, so that's why I did it, to overcome it. And so I door knock and I was like, hey, I wonder if you can help me. And that was my opener. And they tried to help me 90% of the time, even though I was like associated with all these other salespeople that are trying to sell these $4,000 vacuum cleaners.
You're still going for the dig, and I'm not buying it.
Yeah, no, all right, fair enough. It sounded like a wonderful vacuum cleaner.
To be fair,
was it good?
The product itself, yes.
What should it have cost though? Like, be honest.
Look,
$1,500 max, surely. No, $999.
No, but you're taking away the value of something. At the end of the day, like Dyson these days is just about $2,000. So to be fair, when it comes to the actual technology of it, it was never made out of plastic. It's made out of steel. So you've actually got a product that will last long.
Yeah, well said. I mean, to be fair, I have had a couple people mention it when I was doing my door knocking. They're
Yes.
older people.
Yes.
Because I used to sell a medical product. I used to have to rub feet to help them walk, which was cool because their mobility's all stuffed up. But they liked it. They're like, it was a bit expensive, but it still kept working.
Yeah.
So that
I mean, it was heavy, but yeah. It lasted. I mean, the biggest thing with it is that I think it was...
still a believer. It's amazing, yeah.
Oh, I don't think it's a believer. The thing is, when you've got a husky for a pet and a long-haired German Shepherd, it's probably the only machine that gets the fur out.
Do you use it? Do you use it yourself? Go on.
Sorry?
Do you use it yourself? Here's the real proof.
I've had one a couple of years ago. I got rid of it because...
Did it stop working?
No, because my broken arm.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. You win on that one. Fair enough. We should leave on a positive note.
Yes.
So people, young women or just women in general that are thinking about doing renovations and not sure where to start or what to do, or maybe men, you branch out. Don't know.
Yes.
We'll see.
No, I do help men as well. Yeah.
Good stuff. No discrimination here.
No.
How do they find you, or what will help the process, or what kind of is the ideal client? So they're like, oh, that's me.
Yeah, I think an ideal client is a person who doesn't know where to start. They would like some help, and even if it's just the actual project management part, so literally just helping them to start, and then they can manage it themselves. I'm more than happy to take a call. So I have a website, and it's renogirl.co.nz, or they can contact me and actually give me a call or send me a text on 021 27 99 664.
Oh, you're off. Rattled it off.
Yeah. But, the thing is, I'm there to really help anyone that is wanting to know how do they really set off, or if they want to add value to their property. I think at the moment it's really important to not over-invest and say, yes, kitchens and bathrooms sell and they help sell your house. So if it's certainly a bit tired and it needs an upgrade, you should probably think about doing that if you're going to the market, because if it's in your area and it's the only sort of place that hasn't had it done, so it might put buyers off. It's just talking to a real estate agent for figuring out whether it's doing it, worth doing. But I think, I personally have bought a property a couple of years ago, and I've added 2 bedrooms and a bathroom and a kitchenette and made it into a multi-level sort of property from a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. It's now a 5-bedroom, 2-bathroom.
You're living in a mansion.
Well,
look at these ballers over here.
It's more.
Just own it.
It's not a border.
Built it myself.
It's
these hands with these overalls under the house.
Yeah, pretty much. But at the end of the day, I think it's about adding value where it comes to now. You can't just you've got to either buy the place well first, and then you've got to be able to add value to it to make some money on the property. That's the only way really these days.
Fair. Actually, just last question, I promise. What are common things that add value to the property? Is it more bedrooms? Is it the kitchen part that you talked about? Or is it case by case? And if it is, do you ask the real estate agent, or who do you ask?
I find that if I'm going to be looking for a property, and I'm wanting to say, it really depends. If you are going to be buying a rental that is going to give you income, so you can either invest in capital gains when it comes to the property journey, or you can invest in cash flow. But say for your own home, at the end of the day, I think it's about the area. You need to figure out, it still is, worst house on the best street rather than the other way around. So if you do buy the worst house on the best street, you still should really invest in making it great, and these days you don't have to, spend $1 gazillion on doing up a nice kitchen. You can make it tidy and say use a supplier who will tell you, okay, this is the most common bench top that you go for, therefore you can get it on special. There are things that you could do to save some money but actually still get a great product and I look at area, what's the most common sort of requirement in that area? Is it a 4-bedroom house, or is it a 4-bedroom 2-bathroom, or is it 5, or is it 3, and you can go from there.
Okay.
Or, you might have bought a place and you can actually put another place on it. Or you could do an extension, and those are the things that I can also help with customers. I've got a team of architects who I work with, who we can kind of look at what is feasible, and then put together some drawings and then submit it to council, and off you go.
Yeah. Oh, I learned stuff, even unwillingly. No, I think it's important for me to understand the baseline, and then just put people in front of the right people. I'm good at just connecting with people that will solve a problem I don't want to.
Yeah.
And then it's like, here you go. But I'll have your website in the link below, so if anyone wants to reach out, they can.
Thank you.
But thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.